Hey everyone, welcome to Felicity Yarn Studio. If you're new here, my name is Zoe. I am a fiber artist coming to you from the foothills of North Carolina. I am a knitter, a spinner, a yarn dyer, sometimes a crocheter, and this is just where I like to share what I've been working on, what I've been making. Firstly, I deserve a round of applause, I think, because I am actually here recording less than 2 months since the last time I recorded. I think I'm pushing it on making it within a month of my last episode, which was in like mid-December. It is the 27th of January. Nonetheless, I am here. I have some stuff to share with you guys. I will get the life update out of the way real quick. I don't know why I keep expecting life to slow down and not be crazy. That's Ollie. I'm in the kitchen today, sitting in front of his food bowl. And he is the main subject of the last month's drama. So we did our holiday travels. I came home with both RSV and the flu, so this is the first week where like I no longer have any congestion. My voice is back to normal. The day after we returned, that little shithead got out the door again. He went missing this time for an entire month. Last time in October, he was gone for about 2 weeks. About 3 nights ago, Jason and I were talking about taking down the posters in the neighborhood. We got a call from one of our neighbors saying that he was in their garage. So he is back. He lost a lot of weight this time. He was down to about 7 pounds. We went out looking for him a lot. But again, both of us were sick. So it was not the most enjoyable, pleasant experience. Very stress inducing. But anyway, that has been resolved. Last week, I was ready to do a shop update with my hand-dyed yarn, and then we got word that there was a death in the family on my dad's side, so there was a whirlwind trip down to Florida. My parents came down with COVID, so like we turned around and hightailed it back. Thankfully, I did not come down with it even after being confined in the RV with them for days on end. But yeah, January has been crazy. My birthday happened somewhere in there. So here we are. I'm here. I'm ready to sit down and do a podcast for you guys. So jumping right on in, I have one whole finished object to share with you guys, and it's super interesting, super thrilling, a pair of vanilla socks that I was working on. I'm going to try to avoid saying our trip to Iceland like 80,000 times in this video. You want to come say hi? I take up all his chairs. He likes to sleep on the kitchen chairs here. Back to what I was saying. I'm going to try to not be that person, but all of my whips and this one finished object pertain to that trip. But I finished these vanilla socks for myself over our Christmas travels, and the main color is from Retrosaria. I don't think there's a colorway name. I think there's just a number sequence. You can find that and some information on what I'm talking about in the description box down below. For the toes and the heels, I used some yarn that I had dyed up and used in my snow pine jumper. 2 at a time, toe up socks on, I want to say I used size 0 needles. I did use size 0 needles for these 68 stitches. Vanilla socks, not a whole lot to break down here for you guys. I just wanted some very warm, more dense socks. That's why I went with the size 0 needles for these. And again, they were toe up. So at the top here for my bind off to keep them nice and stretchy, my go-to is just to do a regular bind off in all knit stitches, even though it's rib up here, but to use like probably a size 3 or size 4 needle for that. So they're a little loose, but not too bad. I think they look fine. They're fine when I wear them. So these will be going into my packing pile for our trip. The only thing, I'm not crazy about the pooling on these. Like, I don't know, they're just a little weird, but I'm assuming that just has to do with the gauge that I was working at. If something's gonna pool, I'd rather it kind of like pool evenly around and at least make some kind of like repeatable pattern. It's just kind of weird how these all kind of, they pooled right there in the middle with the colors, but whatever. They're socks. The socks are the only time that I really don't care about pooling so much. So I have probably 40-50 grams of this left. So at some point or another, I will make a second pair of socks with this. Up next is a project that I started for Jason, for my husband. He never asks for me to knit anything, and that kind of makes me a little bit crazy. Like, I want to make stuff for him, you know, he's like the most important person in my life, but he could care less about knitted items. And not that he doesn't care about me or my hobbies, but it's more that he's just a warm-blooded person who, like, he'll throw on a fleece all through winter just to go to work, and not, like, he doesn't even wear a proper coat half of the time. But since we are going to a very cold and windy place, he does not have any kind of like scarf. I've made him a few hats and some socks, but he requested a scarf. So I was like, well, how can I say no when you never ask for anything and I want to make you things, even though knitting scarves is like torture to me now. So this is the fisherman's scarf. I'll put the proper name down in the description box. It's a free pattern that I found on Pearl Soho's website. So it is, again, a fisherman's rib for the whole thing, which is kind of like a mock brioche stitch. So I am using Yarn Held Double, and this is from Harrisville Designs. It is some of their Nightshades yarn. This colorway is called Last Call, which I love their Nightshades, which is like black yarn that has been blended with colors. So like this one's been blended with blue. There's like a purple and a red and a yellow version, just to give it that little bit depth of shade color to it. I think it's really gorgeous. They have a Daylights version, which is white or natural colored wool that has also been blended. I picked up 6 skeins of this yarn about 3 years ago when we were doing our kind of impromptu yarn crawl of the Raleigh-Durham area right before everything changed 3 years ago. So this came from Downtown Knits in Apex, North Carolina. Since it has been sitting kind of in my stash unused for years on end, even though I had plans for it, I even spun up yarn to make something color work with this. I just decided, you know what, it's in his colors. He loves blues. He doesn't wear, he wears blue and black, maybe some green and like olive or some browns, but not a ton. I was like, fine, I'll just sacrifice 4 out of my 6 skeins of yarn here and make you a scarf. Since I am doing that, my justification is that once we come back from our trip, I will just purchase myself a sweaters quantity and the Daylights version. I am more likely to wear a light colored garment than a dark colored one anyway. So back to this scarf. It is coming right along. This is where I joined the second set of yarn here. So this was all my first pair of skeins. I think if I just knit the remaining 2 skeins here, it should be long enough. Like, it is it's pretty close to being a long enough scarf for me as it is, but since he's like 6'5", I'm gonna make it good and long for him. I want him to be able to wrap it around at least once, maybe even twice. I was asking him the other day, I was like, do you even know how to wear a scarf? He's like, no. I'm like, just wait. I will give you my favorite ways to wear a scarf, which is actually when you like make a loop and then you pull it through. Can't do that right now, but the neighborhood cats like to walk around the front of the house this time of day and set off my alarms. So that is why the chimes are going off in the background. So yeah, this is coming right along. It took me a minute to really get into knitting it because scarves are just kind of like, bleh. I had thought about just doing a stockinette like in the round and then grafting the ends together or something, but I kind of wanted to get away from some vanilla knitting for a while, do something a little different. I know that the brioche will be, not brioche, well, kind of brioche. It's gonna be nice and thick and squishy. It's non-superwash yarn, so it'll be good protection against the wind and the cold. And yeah, I'm gonna try to knock this one out as quickly as possible so I can finish the other like 2 or 3 things here that I really wanna have done for our adventure. Now, if you watched my last episode from December, the main thing that I said that I was gonna work on, that I have not been working on, is my Primrose jumper. And let's see, where are we? My goal was to finish the first sleeve and get the second sleeve at least started. Because it is knit from the bottom up in the round. You knit the body, then you knit the sleeves, and then you join the sleeves and knit the yoke up. So I was about halfway through this sleeve and I got a good chunk of it done. I thought I had finished the sleeve. So bear with me while I kind of rant for a little bit here. So yeah, I got to what I thought was the end of the sleeve up here, started looking at the written instructions and was really confused for a minute. And it took me probably longer than it should have to realize that once you finish the chart, you're then supposed to go back down to the beginning and work like the first 13 rows up here to complete the sleeve. Nothing in the written instructions really indicated that to me. I don't know how I was supposed to know that, and it really frustrated me so much to the point that I threw this in timeout and I cast on something entirely new that I'll get to in a minute because I was like ready to abandon this, ready to, yeah, like it'll get done when it gets done. The love-hate relationship that I have with this project is crazy. Like, looking at the parts that are actually knitted, I love it. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's traditional. It will be an heirloom piece that I will keep for forever. The actual knitting of it, it's like 2/3 of the knitting drives me crazy, and then occasionally I'll get into a groove and I'll actually get into a rhythm, because there are occasionally parts where the charts like just click and you get going. But then there's times where I'm reading the charts and it's like clunky and I have to look every few stitches to see where I am, and it just doesn't feel rhythmic and enjoyable. You're constantly changing the yarns. So yes, I threw this into timeout. I cast on something new. Now that I have pulled it out to talk about it and I'm smelling the sheepy woolly wool, I'm like, maybe I do need to just knock this out. We've got a little over a month before we leave. I would love to have this sweater. I would love to have an epic picture of myself in Iceland in this sweater, which I realize is so like vain and unimportant, but I mean, of all the effort that I'm putting into it, I feel like that would be the ultimate payoff. So I'm kind of at a loss. Let me know down in the comments. I'm going to show you guys the next thing that I have started since putting this thing into timeout. I do think I'm ready to pull it back out, but I don't know if I'm ready to commit to trying to get it done in time, because what I am about to show you is completely different from the Primrose. So in my frustration, I started scrolling Ravelry, pattern browsing. I started thinking about what was in my stash. I went upstairs and I did a run through of my stash. I have 6 skeins of this yarn. This is from Brooklyn Tweed. It is the veil base, which is a lace weight of some Rambouillet. This colorway is called Arabesque. Unfortunately, this base is discontinued, and actually Naomi, my sister, she is the yarn curator. Go check out her channel. She picked up a lot of this for me and for her on a super deep discount from one of her local yarn shops down in Florida. Again, like 3 to 4 years ago. So this has been sitting in my stash for a good long bit. I've wanted to do a big oversized cardigan, and I always thought about holding this with some silk mohair, something fuzzy with some halo. I know she did something kind of similar. I made a cardigan with the colorway that she got. So I settled upon the Darjeeling cardigan by Knitting for Olive, and that is a really beautiful pattern. It actually uses 3 skeins of mohair held together. Your girl does not have the budget for 12 skeins of mohair, even being a yarn dyer who could dye up all of my own. Yeah. Besides the fact that I'm trying to utilize stash here, this is lace weight. I only had 4 skeins of mohairs hanging around. It's not something that I dye regularly for the shop, but I also happened to have some of the brushed Surrey alpaca, which is very similar to this mohair silk, which is over here. This is the alpaca. The brushed alpaca is more of a like sport weight yarn. Like I think this has about 450 yards. This is like 360. So it's a little bit heavier, but I still decided to go ahead and just hold all 3 of these together for my cardigan that I started. And before I go any further, these are dyed up in one of my shop colorways called Hellebore. It is a colorway that started off as a one of a kind, and I loved it so much that I went back and recreated it. So just for illustration example, this is it on sock yarn. I also have it on DK weight, and it looks very similar like this. But the way that the mohair and the alpaca take up the yarn, take up the dye, it just shows you how differently some different bases can dye up. And I'll have another example of that later when I talk about what is new in the shop. So yes, I had some of each of these, so I decided that's what I would start my cardigan in. And here she is. So the way that this is constructed, let me pop it on so you can get a better idea. You knit, I don't remember which side is first. One of either the left or the right front panel you knit first. Yes, sir. You gonna come here? Come say hi. Come here, you little rascal. Don't get tangled up in all my yarn, please. Here he is. The prodigal son returns. Say hello. Give your apologies to all the people for stressing me out. The things we would do for these little boogers. I'll feed you more in a minute. Okay, where was I? Yes, you knit. again, I don't remember the front right or the front left, and then you do the other side. The, what is this piece called? Not the collar, the button band, but there's no buttons. You knit that on as you're going, so I really appreciate that there is no coming back later and picking up stitches for that and having to knit that on. I really like that it is knit all in one piece there. There's a lot of short row shoulder shaping that happens on both sides and then again on the back piece. So I am very, very close here. I think I'm only like 2 or 3 rows away from the back part being done, and then once that is at the length that it is called for, you will join them. So you have sleeve holes, and then it's just knitting and purling back and forth for stockinette for the rest of the body. It is a fairly long, written as a fairly long cardigan. That is the style that I want. I kind of want a long, like grandpa style, oversized cardigan. That's one thing that is, I don't know if it's a little weird or whatever about this pattern. It is written to have something like between 6 and 25 inches of positive ease, which is quite a large window there of ease, which I'm not mad at. Just like, all right, that's what we're going for. So even if I had knit the very smallest size, which I don't remember what bust that is supposed to correlate to, it would have given me 12 inches of positive ease. I did opt for the next size up just to make sure I would have a nice oversized fit. So that's gonna give me 14 inches of positive ease. So even though there's like 4, maybe 5 sizes, I don't remember, they're only sized by like 2 inches. So it's, I don't know, it's a little weird, but at the same time, hey, if I have to do less knitting to get an oversized garment, I am not mad at that. So I did have to go up a needle size to get gauge, and I am knitting on size 10.5 needles, which are 6.5 millimeter. So these parts really flew by, even though they're probably the most technical parts of the pattern. And I think once I get this all joined and I'm just doing the body, which is the main part, and then the sleeves, it should knit up fairly quickly. Like I did most of this in under a week. So I really feel like I can get one or the other done before our trip. The question is, which one do I go for? I'm really, really torn. This is something that I really, really want in my everyday life, and it's gonna happen regardless. This I want for, I don't know if bragging rights is the right word, but yeah, I'm really torn. So let me know in the comments which one you would opt for. I feel like if I knocked this out, I could then like speed knit my way through the cardigan. My only reservation for taking this cardigan on the trip would be, I don't know what it would be like as far as layering goes, both over things and underneath my coat that I plan on taking. So that is my current dilemma. I'm gonna focus on finishing the scarf and these next 2 things before I really make a decision on my garment choice here. So yeah, I'm paralyzed by indecision at this point. All right, so moving right along. As far as whips go, I have been working on a pair of fingerless mitts for myself, and I'm very loosely basing these off of the Tinsel Mitts by Andrea Mowry. I did opt to omit the like slip stitch detail along the inside and of the palm, and I think it also goes along the back of the hand as well. I'm I'm just gonna eat crow here for a minute. Naomi made this pattern before and she was like, you really shouldn't bother with the slip stitch because it doesn't really add much, you know. She was like, I didn't really see the point. And I was like, no, I'm gonna do them. I'm gonna do the slip stitch because, you know, it's what's written there. And I do like the look of the detail on there. It kind of gives them something besides just being plain old mittens. So yeah, I got through like maybe a couple inches of one of these, the first one that I was making. I couldn't even see the slip stitch. I'm using hand spun yarn that I spun up last year. It's the braid of Malabrigo. So yeah, I couldn't even see the slip stitch, and I wrote back and I did it without the slip stitch. So you're right, Naomi. Sibling rivalry front and center for you all here on the YouTubes. Anyway, all I need to do for these is now pick up and then knit the little flap that goes over. So I wanted something for when we are walking around town where I don't need my like heavy duty commercial gloves if I want to like pull my phone out and be able to fiddle around with that. But these are actually, my hands are quite warm sitting here inside using these. So this is what I got left of that skein, that braid. I think I spun this up with the intention that it would go into a blanket one day, but actually I really like the way that it is knitting up. It's a lot softer spun up than it was when I was actually trying to spin it. I don't remember what episode I talked about spinning that braid, but it was a giant pain in the behind. Malabrigo, you gotta do something about your braids being a little filthy because that was not fun. So yes, these are my mitts. I am still working on Jason's mittens. No, not mittens, his are gloves. They are the char gloves. They are not in the project bag where they're supposed to be. I was told I had to finish his gloves before I could put the flaps on my gloves as a principle of the matter. So I have finished one glove for him. And the last time you guys saw this, I was working on the second one. I was almost done with the cuff. So I've done the cuff and the entire hand. On the hand, it uses, now it's Darcy's turn to be in here fussing. The hand, on the hand is what I would call, I have partridge heel stitch. The pattern calls it a pebble stitch. This is my life. Never-ending cats meowing at me for something. They have food, they have water, they've gotten treats. Here we are. It's the eye of partridge stitch or pebble stitch on the hand. When I finished the first glove way back when, last year sometime, the fingers didn't take me very long to do. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I knocked them out in 1 or 2 nights. I just need him sitting next to me on the couch while I do them so he can try them on and make sure that they are the proper length. Although I guess now that I have one completely done, I could just go off of what I already have. I'm just making excuses for not finishing these, I think. I am using yarn from Darcy. You need to come up here too? All right, your turn to say hello. Say hello. And then leave me alone. You gonna tear my sweater up. All right, big girl. She has been big mad over not being the only child anymore. We're working on it. We're working on it. Anyway, yes. So I have fingers left to do on these, and yeah, it's another thing that I think that I can knock out fairly quickly. Don't say these cats aren't spoiled. Getting fur all in my mouth. All right, can you just like sit in my lap or something? The only other thing that I have been working on is I did actually start on these socks for Jason, which I shared the yarn with you guys last time. This is from Mustache Yarns. It's one of their Star Wars colorways. I forget the name of it. So yes, I started some 2 at a time toe up socks. I am back on these size 0 needles here. I did most of the toe at some point or another, and then when we left Florida, I went on ahead and put in a stitch marker just to illustrate. From here to here was Florida knitting, leaving the state of Florida. From here to here was the state of Georgia, and then South Carolina knitting. We were losing daylight at that point, and the roads in South Carolina are god-awful, so I just kind of put these down at that point. My brain was also a bit of mush, and just, yeah, there was a lot of scrolling that happened that day as well on my phone. But honestly, I'm not even going to push myself to finish these before the trip. I might just save them as more travel knitting, or at least get them maybe close to where if I finish them while we're on the trip, then he'll have another pair of socks to take with him or to use while we're there. So that is it as far as what I have been working on. I don't know if I mentioned, but I have been trying to get some stuff in the shop, and I wanted to run a birthday sale last week. So everything in the shop is now currently on sale through sometime in February. I don't remember what date I picked because my brain, again, is having some trouble keeping up with everything. But let's see here. I talked about this on Instagram. I don't remember if I talked about it on the podcast, but one of the things I wanted to do this year was a color of the month. So for January, I picked some inspiration pictures, and what I dyed did not come out like my inspiration pictures. It's close, but a little bit different. So this is the colorway that I wound up with. It is called Lavender Fields. The top one here is on sock yarn, and the bottom is on MCN. So again, or merino cashmere nylon. So again, you can kind of see how the different bases soak up dye, how the dye strikes differently. On the MCN base, it strikes a lot faster, so you wind up with more saturated colors, whereas sometimes on the sock yarn and other bases like the fuzzy bases, the dye has a chance to move through the water more, so you wind up with a more diluted pastel-ish color. You can get pastels with MCN, this is just how it happened to turn out. So that is one of the things about dyeing yarn that I love, is how unpredictable it can be at times. You can put the exact same amount of dye, the exact temperature of water, amount of water in the dye pan, but it's a crapshoot on if it's gonna actually turn out the way you want it to, especially when you're doing something tonal or speckled like this. Solids are a completely different animal to dye that I do not excel in necessarily. I enjoy a little bit more of a free-form dye method here. So Lavender Fields is in the shop. I did make the MCN ones into a sock set, so I'll pop a picture on the screen of those since they're a little bit more vibrant than what I was originally going for. Again, I've got Hellebore in the shop on sock, and there's a couple of extra ones on the Surrey Alpaca in there as well, and on DK Weight. I have Water Nymph in the shop, which this is Water Nymph water nymph. This is water nymph that I sent to Cher of Lathe and Loom a year or two ago. She cranked out some sock tubes for me. So I didn't have a skein handy, so I just decided to grab this sock blank to show you guys what it looks like all worked up. I am thinking I am gonna try to bust out a quick pair of socks by putting on heels, toes, and cuffs for myself with this for the trip. There's other stuff too. I've been going through my bins of like misdyes or like oddball skeins and putting those in the shop as well. So, and again, everything is 25% off. Go get you some. So I have a few small acquisition type things to talk about as well. Kind of. I'm gonna have to displace this one. She's not going to be happy about it. If you watch Naomi's podcast, on her last one, she talked about how we're always exchanging things back and forth throughout the year. And at Christmas time, I gave her advent calendar and a sock tube that had also been cranked. So she very kindly gifted me back, I think, some fiber that I'm pretty sure I dyed this up and then sent it down to her. And I think it is Targi. And she has a drum carder, so she made me a bunch of bats. There's more in the bag there, but I'll just pull these ones out. So they're all kind of neon-y pastel colors. I will probably continue my chunky spinning journey with these and play around, probably add them to that other quantity for making a like chunky shawl blanket out of hand spun yarn. So yes, there is all of that. That's gonna make some really pretty big floofy skeins, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna have to move you. I'm sorry. The last kind of acquisition thing that I was gonna share with you guys, I think I told you that I ordered from Artemis Yarns her like weekend advent, which was where you open one full-size skein for 5 weeks leading up to Christmas. And I just wanted to show you the set that I got here. So there it is. This gorgeous 5 skein fade here. So the kit this year was Ariadne themed, and I am going to very poorly explain my understanding of the Ariadne myth or mythology. My understanding of the story comes from reading a romance novel by Elizabeth Hoyt, and I don't remember which one it was. I want to say it is part of the, what is the name of the series? Maiden Lane series. It's either like the first, second, or third book in that series. And I know this is not helping you at all. The way she writes her books, at the beginning of every chapter, she has a little like correlating side story or mythology, her retelling of a mythology that goes along with the main story. So that's where I remember Ariadne from. And it has something to do with like a prince or a monster or a bull, and he's in a maze, and everyone who goes in gets killed, but then this maiden goes in, and the like monster's mother gives her a ball of yarn for some reason. So I assume that's where the fiber connection comes into this story. Yeah, that is really all I remember of it. But anyway, the Artemis yarn kit very surprisingly, unexpectedly included this lovely little extra, which I would love to get to as well. She included a little embroidery hoop and a piece of fabric here to, she said, just to, you know, do a little freeform embroidery project on here with all your little yarn ends. So that piece of fabric is really gorgeous. I have talked about how I want to do an embroidery journal for the year in the past, and have I followed through with that? No, I have not. This may turn into something like that. I have kind of been jotting down on my notes app little things from each day. So I may go back and get that started before half of the year goes by. I don't know. We'll see. I may also just make something completely impulsive with this. The kit also came with some stitch markers and another like full-size project bag. So that was really generous and really unexpected. And she's probably one of my favorite yarn dyers. I'm thinking maybe another melting marl shawl out of this. I haven't decided yet. I don't know. We'll see what it wants to be. I'm going to sit on it for a minute and see. So yeah, I would love to get into some hand embroidery. I had this pulled out all ready to go last week. I was going to sit down and do my needle felting kit before we had to go out of town unexpectedly. So I'm looking forward to sitting down and getting that done at some point. I want to get back on my spinning wheel, both of them. I've got that art, what is it? Is it Art Nouveau? No. What is the name of that sweater pattern? Baroque Nouveau. I've got my Baroque Nouveau spin that I haven't touched since October. Again, I want to do some more bulky spinning. That is my life right now. It's okay. I feel better. Getting my cat back for the second time lifted a lot of anxiety. Getting through the holidays is nice. I'm really looking forward to our trip, and yeah, I'm in a good place making wise. I just need more hours in the day to get it all done. Don't we all though? Don't we all? So one more thing I'll throw out here before I sign off is I was watching Gemma of Gemma B Makes podcast before I sat down to film, and she was talking about her New Year's goals, and I'm not going to call them resolutions because she was talking about her making goals, and I was like, you know, personally for me, whenever I try to make goals or anything like that, it seems to be the kiss of death for whatever I have planned. So I try not to do that, but I am gonna put one thing out into the universe, and mostly so I can just try to have some kind of accountability here. I really want to just record monthly. I want to get monthly podcasts put up, even if I'm only here for 10 minutes to show you half a sock or something. Like, that is my only goal for the year as far as the channel and making goes. So with that being said, I plan on seeing you guys in February. I hope to have all of my Iceland makes finished by then, with the exception of whatever sweater garment I decide on. Let me know in the comment box down below what you would do in my situation, which one you think I should try to knock out first. If you think I am a crazy person and I can get both of them done, not happening. I will talk to you guys again soon, and happy knitting. I hope that your yarn is behaving as always. Bye. Let's do this thing. Come on. Ollie. Who's got who trained? So back to the scarf.